Let's go. I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And welcome to the meeting. And Bob Templeton is going to start us off with our quarterly report. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Board President, board members, it is my pleasure to be with you this evening. I will touch just on the enrollment history. We've kind of got a new format that we're trying out this third quarter. I wanted to start off by just looking at your enrollment history, looking back the last, going all the way back to 2011, that the blue bar across the bottom is the enrollment history. You'll notice back in 2011, we had about 17,155 students, and we've had very consistent growth over each year, year over year. The yellow cell is the largest grade per year, and the green is the second largest grade per year. And you'll notice that this past October, we had very strong enrollment growth. Our enrollment growth was right at 4.3%, which was 871 additional students to the school district this year. And when we take a little closer look, that pink box in the middle of this graph, this slide, is the forecast from last year. So last year during the fall, we presented the forecast, and we were forecasting 20,733 students of enrollment, and you came in about 192 students over our forecast. And the bottom table is the cohort change or the year-over-year grade change. We highlighted those grades where we saw the biggest increase this year, and you'll notice it was at secondary. And so it was the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all of those cohorts were record-breaking cohorts. The average for the high school was 1.03, and we rarely see high school cohorts that average over 1%. Now, we have a pretty good idea of what this is. This is the return of charter students coming back to your school district public high schools. And so we have seen this in some of our other clients, but not to this degree. And so it is that movement out of the charters back in which caused that huge surge in those high school campuses.
And that's something new. You've got several new things in here, right?
Yes,
Different,
that are a little
ways
different.
To look at the, okay.
Yes. But we wanted to kind of point that out because we do think it is the sign that, you know, some of these families have gotten into the charters at the elementary levels, and then when they get ready to make those decisions for secondary, that's when they really recognize that the public schools, your high schools and middle schools, have so much stronger programs and the extracurricular that the charters can't compete. And so then they do come back to the public high schools, middle schools for their secondary experiences. Overall, the economic conditions continue to be very good. The Dallas-Fort Worth area continues to be one of the strongest cities in the country for job growth. The national job growth rate was 1.4%. The DFW job growth rate is 3%. We're still creating over 100,000 new jobs in the DFW Metroplex. The unemployment rates are at 50-year lows. U.S. is at 3.3, Texas 3.3, the DFW MSA is at 3.1, and Fort Worth's at 3.2. Very low. I don't see that changing in the near term, so it's a little bit of a good news, bad news. It's somewhat challenging to fill service jobs when the unemployment rates are this low. It is likely affecting, food service, janitorial, bus drivers, even substitute teachers can be in short supply when the unemployment rates are this low. The housing market looks like it is kind of settling across the DFW Metroplex at about 33,000. So we've seen several quarters in a row where the new home start rate across the region is right at 33,000. That is a healthy supply to keep up with population growth. So we're growing at about 100,000 people a year in the DFW Metroplex, so that 33,000 new homes is adequate to keep up with the population growth. Want to take just a little bit of a dive look into your housing market. Now this is deed transaction data, so it's looking at new homes, existing home sales. It's also looking at distressed property sales, which is foreclosures and bank-owned sales. And you'll notice back in 2010, that was kind of the end of the recession. The distressed property sales were almost over 1,000 annual distressed property sales across the district, and today it's gone down to less than 100. So that just also points to how healthy the housing market is that when families or homes get distressed due to either job loss or health, they can sell their homes very quickly, thus avoiding foreclosure. That's healthy for the home values. When you have a high amount of distressed property sales, it can be a drag on home values. Now, another look at home values and home prices. This is the graph for the new home price within Eagle Mountain Saginaw. Back in 2010, the average new home price was $161,000. In 2018, it peaked out at $273,000, and it's kind of settled in that $268,000, $270,000 range is where we expect the new home prices to kind of settle for the next couple of years. Your existing home prices have continued to escalate. Back in 2010, it was $151,000 for an existing home sale, and year-to-date in 2019, about $246,000 is the average price for an existing home sale.
What's the reason for the drop, you think, in the 19? Is there any real?
Well, it's just a very subtle drop, and so I do think that there is the housing market, the new builders are now responding to where the demand is, and the highest demand is now in the lower price points. So the upper price points, there's not as much demand for. So they've shifted down, and that's where Eagle Mountain is going to stay in that very strong part of the housing market, is because a majority of your housing is in that less than $300,000 price point. Versus, we've already seen Prosper kind of taper, because Prosper is majority of their housing is over $400,000, and there's just not as much demand for housing above $400,000. In looking at the data quarter over quarter, you can see year-to-date starts in 2019, 1,233. We've consistently started well over 400 homes during the second and third quarter. The closings are very healthy at 1,280. We could get close to 1,700 closings by the end of 2019. So we do expect to see a very strong fourth quarter, which could produce about another 400 to 500 closings, which will put you right at 1,700 for the year. Right now, Eagle Mountain Saginaw is ranked 5th in the DFW Metroplex based on annual closings. We closed 1,647. We've got 1,914 vacant developed lots, and we have 17,736 futures. You're noticing that Frisco is dropping down that list. They'll likely be even beyond 5th spot this time next year. So Frisco is running out of land, they're running out of lots and future lots, so they'll just continue to move down the list, whereas Eagle Mountain Saginaw will continue to be in the top 5 for the foreseeable future. Breaking down your single-family housing by your current elementary attendance zones, you can see Comanche Springs is your #1 most active elementary zone. They've started almost 450 new homes during the last 12 months. What's also kind of interesting about this data is you have 8 elementary zones that are starting more than 100 homes. So 8 elementary zones are experiencing significant growth because of the single-family development in your school district. Just kind of that overview, big picture look. We've got 1,900 vacant developed lots to build on. Those are located in those green shaded subdivisions. The yellow are the futures, and where you see a red outline around those green areas, that's where development is taking place. Bulldozers are on site, they're delivering lots. We've got 2,900 lots that are in development, which will likely be delivered within the next 6 to 8 months. So that's just another indication that the developers and the builders are gearing up for continued strong construction in your school district. This is a little bit new. Now you'll notice we've kind of got it tapering off just a little bit. Right now we're estimating a little over 1,600 homes during the 2020 year, and then we have it tapering off to about 1,000 homes. I do think the next year will be a sign as to whether it kind of stays in that 1,200 to 1,400 range. And we could see it pick back up and stay in that 15 to 1600. That's the reason we do this on a quarterly basis, is so that we can adjust that forecast when we see what the developers are doing. This is just another look at the blue bar is your existing residential units within those elementary attendance zones. That light blue bar of the graph represents future housing, and it's a 5-year look. And so you'll notice that Comanche Springs, Lake Point, those are the two elementaries that are going to be adding the most single-family homes. And then we've got Dozier and Elkins. That'll be adding the next most single-family housings. But there again, what you'll notice is a majority of your elementary zones are adding single-family housing. Newcomers and leavers. This is also information that we're starting to report in the third quarter. The red bar represents leavers, and how we track that is we compare the current student database, student IDs, and we compare it to the previous year's student IDs, and we're looking for missing student IDs from this year. So when we see that there are missing IDs, then we count those as leavers, and we do the opposite for newcomers. Newcomers are new IDs this year that didn't exist last year. You can kind of see the patterns. That 2017-18 year, we had more leavers, a significant number more leavers than we had newcomers, and that was the year that the International Leadership opened. And so that is reflective in this newcomer leaver data. But then when we look at 2018, a huge number of newcomers. The difference was 582 to the positive on the newcomers and leavers, and in 2019, we had a lower amount of leavers, about 3,100 newcomers. So you can see the change is very significant over the last 2 years. There again, I think that plays to the return students that are returning from the charters. Birth rates are also a factor that we use in our forecasting. What we do is we look at the birth records within the district. We compare it to the 5-year lagging kindergarten number. So you'll notice that very first row of the table, 2006, represents the number of births in the district in 2006, 1,032. We compare that to the 2011 kindergarten class, so we can get a ratio, and then we use that ratio to help guide us in the kindergarten forecast. So what you'll notice is the birth rate is going up quite a bit, or not the rate, the number of births is going up to over 1,500 in the 2016 year. That's going to be reflected in 1,500 kindergartners in 2021. We have broken down your projections by your high school feeder pattern, so we'll start with Boswell. Lake Point is your most active elementary zone in the Boswell feeder pattern, and you'll notice that this past October it had about 793 students. It's forecasted to have 861 next fall, and then by 2022 it'll have over 1,000 students. At the middle school level, it's Wayside that is your largest between these in this feeder pattern, and it'll have about 1,000 students in 2023. And Boswell High School gets to about 2,700 students in 2025. The Chisholm Trail feeder pattern, of course, Greenfield is right at 755, so it is your largest elementary in the Chisholm Trail feeder pattern. It gets just a little bit over capacity, or gets close to capacity, not quite over capacity. It's within 5%. And then you'll notice that Dozier Elementary in the Chisholm, it gets to its capacity as early as 2024, and then 2025 is when it would exceed the capacity by over 5%. We're in pretty good shape at the middle schools in the Chisholm Trail feeder pattern, and the high schools. It stays at about 25 to almost 2,600 students by 2028, 2029. The Saginaw feeder pattern, Comanche Springs, the elementary that is growing the fastest, it'll be over 900 students next fall. And then it'll be almost 1,200 students in 2024. Chisholm Ridge Elementary School gets to about 765 in 2025. Prairie Vista Middle School gets to over 900 students in 2023 and gets to about 1,000 students in 2026. Saginaw High School gets to about 2,500 students by 2026. I'll summarize and we can go back and answer questions. Eagle Mountain Saginaw will continue to experience enrollment growth due to the strong housing market. Comanche Springs, Lake Point Elementary zones could see more than 3,000 additional residential units during the next 5 years, so those two elementary zones are seeing the strongest amount of new housing. Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD saw a drop of about 33% in leavers this year, which was very good news. The district is forecasted to add about 1,000 to 1,600 single-family homes a year for the next 5 years, and the school district is expected to enroll more than 24,540 students by the 2024-25 year, and in 10 years, the district's enrollment could top 27,400 students. Be happy to answer any questions.
As we establish the attendance zone, which we're going to talk about tonight for Copper Creek, and then for the new elementary in Lake Country, though you can adjust those numbers as we establish the attendance
Yes.
zones. You can just slide them in.
We have the ability to do that. We just don't put them in until they become finalized.
Right, yeah,
And
that's-
so, but yes, we can update them very quickly.
Because we have a plan, I don't know if we have a plan to address 3,000 additional units, but we do have elementary schools going in close to those that I believe would alleviate the immediate.
Bob, if you go back to that, you had a vertical slide that showed the dark blue and light blue. Yeah. So when you look at that, we have 3 remaining elementaries. So the thing that I like about this one, you see this is where our growth's at. These 2 areas right here, that'll be Copper Creek.
Okay.
So imagine those, where that's tremendous growth, that goes away. Then you go to the next 2, you got Eagle Mountain and Lake Point. That's Lake Point Elementary, so those 2 go away. Then you start looking at Dozier and Parkview, and that's right elementary at 10. And we have a sign already for that one.
In that area.
In that area, and then Elkins is the next one, and we've got some low enrollment there, so we have room to grow. So we're in pretty good shape.
Mr. Welch, as he's working on the attendance boundaries, he actually goes over and meets in their office, and they run all these different scenarios. They have some really good algorithms that run based upon where the growth is and where it may go. So we're looking forward about 5-10 years when we're setting those boundaries.
So they'll feed into either Boswell, or I guess, or Chisholm Trail feeder patterns they have set up, so.
All 3, each one of those elementaries will go into our current high school. Each one will be in each one of the different high schools.
One in each.
And all likelihood.
Because when you see it like this, it's interesting that, one of them has 6 elementaries and, Chisholm Trail has 8, and then Saginaw only has 5, but they all kind of, you think,
We're cleaning those up as far as a pure feeder as we grow. But when those 3 schools come online, we'll take advantage and slot them, hopefully, and they'll end up being pure feeders.
okay.
That's the goal. The hardest part will be McElroy, because we have 2 elementaries across McElroy, and that's the current Boswell Chisholm feeder pattern. So, anyway, we'll have to look at those.
Because it looks like Highland wasn't Highland? High Country. They're close to Comanche Springs, right? I mean, it never gets close to capacity either, so is that true? I mean, is that anything we can do there with High Country?
You've got the additional growth over there by the, between Highland, High Country, and the railroad that's coming in. And then anything south that we have.
Is on your attendance zone now?
Yes. And so when we look at that with Copper Creek, and you kind of look for natural boundaries, and what I told this, explain this, your middle schools, you have to look where your sites are at. So you have a middle school site at Saginaw High School, and the closest other middle school to Saginaw is Highland. So those 2 kind of set that up, and that Prairie Vista, which is on the other side of that railroad, will then be pushed to go north, because it's closest to Eagle Mountain High School.
To the Eagle Mountain High School.
So somewhere that Copper Creek, when you see that, that's kind of the natural boundary we're looking at.
Okay.
You know, I told him, I said, I can't tell you how that will end up, but I said, there is a plan, and this is what we're looking at.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Becky, you gave me a look like, oh no, but was there anybody that signed up to speak? Okay, just want to make sure. I looked over there. All right, thanks.
A quick construction update. It was raining and it was cold the day of this. There's not that many pictures, I'm sorry. But stayed in the vehicle that day. The ones we have are on the back side. If you remember last month, the masonry, the windows were just going in over there. Now you can see that the brick's up and it's given a more finished look. And then as you move around to the back where the kitchen area, you got the dumpsters and those enclosements coming in. To me, these are the two big pictures I like. They're from a distance, but you can really see what's happening. If you look real close inside the windows, you can see the walls. The studs are going up. So that means sheetrock's about to occur on that building. The roofings will be completed, and you have the scaffolding getting ready for the bricks, and you see everything right there getting ready to be put up. It's just two good pictures there showing the progress that we've had on that. Again, just a little more close-up of the area. We've got area 1 with the windows, and then when you look at the area 2, you can actually, that's a close-up with the interior walls coming in. As far as the project, it's moving its own course. So we should meet our timelines. Again, we're doing the basic book, getting ready to order the furniture and get all the curriculum, get it in the warehouse, and then when we take it over, get the furniture in, and then bring our curriculum and all our supplies in, FF&E. So, any questions about Copper Creek? These are some other projects. Some of them, I've kind of started taking some of them off. Some of them are in the punch list phase, and so I've tried to start looking ahead for next year, what we're considering putting forward. Of course, we have Highland and Creekview and Gilland, this is the punch list. The Boswell Athletics, it's getting close to going out to bid. We looked over the project manual, the drawings, and you can see we got a bid next month, and we should be coming back with that in, next month for approval, and we'll begin that Kenneth K. Reed Agriculture Building pretty soon. Be the last part of January or first part of February.
I've got one question about the Boswell athletics. We, after going to some of the other stadiums and just thinking, since on the stands at Boswell, and it looks like it could go back and maybe be done at Chisholm and Saginaw as well, in that middle section where we have the reserved seats section, possibly looking at putting some individual seats in there versus just the bench seat with a bench back on it. I don't know what some of the other people might think, but, you know, that would be, you know, we got a one-time chance to, you know, to do it. I don't know how much more that would affect the price or not, but that's just thought I had.
Well, we have, well, the Boswell one would come out of contingency. The Saginaw, if we did that, there's some monies in there for stadium improvements, so we might have a line item for that. Then Chisholm, we'd have to find some money. And then with Eaton, we'd just incorporate that in, not Eaton, Eagle Mountain High School. We'd have to incorporate that in the stadium.
Would they have time to look at that prior to the bids going out?
I can ask them. If not, we can find an alternative for that.
Just
Be an add-on maybe, or, yeah, alternative.
Yeah, we're still evaluating things that touch the stadium that need to be addressed, so that would be just one of the items. I mean, so we haven't completed everything. It's going to have 4 different packages. So usually you get at CSP, it's the whole package. Here it is. With this project, because we're going to finish and get all the drawings for one project at a time, that way we can speed it up and get the construction going, then have different packages as we go.
And it's gonna start when?
Which one?
The Boswell,
Oh.
tearing down
We're
By-
building or tearing down first?
Okay, so, well, that would be probably the ag building, but we need to rebuild the ag building by the chiller plant over there by the dance cheer, the Tim Dennis Dance Cheer Facility. So that will go in starting the last part of January, February, and by the time school starts, that's where ag will start next year, barring no rain and all those things. And then we'll start tearing down the old baseball field. It'll start getting a parking lot. And then before we do that, we've got to bring in a new electrical feed. This summer, really, the whole deal is about utilities. And you've got two feeds. You've got one from the east and one from the west. So we need to bring the west one from Bowman Roberts all the way to the well where the storage tank is. Actually, if you remember where those little recycle bins are, we're going to put a green, very large transformer there. And Boswell has transformers all around it, and they happen to be in the athletic area. So they had to be all removed this summer, and we'll have a new transformer. So as far as Boswell goes this summer, they're gonna have electrical issues if you're on campus. So we'll have to talk through that and make adjustments as needed there. And then they'll tear the ag down, and with so many utilities, it's gonna be very difficult to walk in front of the north end zone. Like you can park on the visitor side and walk across. In all likelihood, that will be a complete, all the concrete will be torn out, all the utilities have to be rerouted. You'll need, we'll have to put up signs or make communication that if you're gonna park on the home side, you're gonna need to park on the home side, or you're gonna have to walk around the southern side. Same thing with, depending on how we do the dressing room, it'll be the same thing. If we leave it, it's gonna be an island, and you have to walk across a bridge to get to the stadium. Versus going ahead and, there's a possibility of relocating them sooner into the turf room and building them the dressing rooms, showers, toilets, and dressing up and moving the weight equipment over to the turf room.
Is that all phase one?
Could be.
Okay.
If we go that route, that will enable us to go vertical sooner on the main project, which will end up saving money if we just go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off and move them. So we're trying to look at what our schedule would look like in that case.
And I would echo what Tim said. We commented, several of us commented on those seats looking so nice in that mid portion of the stadium.
It looks like
More comfortable,
reserved
yeah.
seating.
So,
And I think you had discussed this in previous, buildings and whenever we've set up stadiums before, so, because I spoke with Tim about it, so we really do endorse that.
so the part where we have where you sit on the back, would that be the ones you would consider that you'd want to have the,
Well, the middle section, wouldn't that, is that what we were talking about?
Yes, the middle section that, from the press box, it goes down close to the very bottom seat, close.
the seat back ones do?
Yes,
Okay, so that's the part you would
yes.
want to do, okay.
I know Alito's looks like that. You can zoom in from the top and look down at it. It's got the AHS on it. I think those are all the seats they have.
I believe
It's
so.
the same thing. It's
Yeah, they're
press
orange,
box,
orange and
press
black.
box,
Yeah.
Top to bottom.
Several of the stadiums, as we were going to the playoff games,
Yeah,
had those. we
Burke will
noticed,
probably
so
have the same thing.
That, yeah.
Birdville doing it.
Okay. Well, we can definitely look at pricing and go from there. That's- Any other questions on the Boswell Athletics? The multiple security project, so we're going to do the procurement in an action item for y'all's consideration, and we feel like it needs to be a CMAR project because just the near complexity of it, each door is different. I will say the Boswell project is going to be pulled out of here and put it in the Boswell Athletic Program. So we will get that going a lot sooner. So around February, hopefully we'll start on those doors and cleaning that part up. Went too far. I went too far. Sorry. The turf projects, we're looking at the 2 auxiliary fields at Chisholm Trail and Saginaw, and then we have the 5 middle schools. The only one I'm not sure about, the 5th one, would be Wayside. We need to make sure that's exactly where we want to have that field before we put a turf on it. And we need to consider doing the track and do it all at once and go ahead and go ahead and moisture condition every bit of it. So you'd get a new track and a new surface. God dang I'm sorry. Then the tennis courts resurfacing. We're gonna put the wind slats in those locations. We have carpet and VCT. The biggest project there will be Saginaw High School, and because it has carpet in the hallways. Most of every one of these still has carpet in the hallways. So that'll be the last part of, hopefully, that transition. And then Lake Country, we're still working with the city on the plating on that. So we've had several meetings with those downtown, getting feedback. And then central office, we hope to go out to bid in October, a year from now, and take about a year to construct. And then next month, we'll hopefully be able to name an architect of record for Eagle Mountain High School. So that's kind of what we have slated for right now. There's going to be some CIP projects that we'll present to you through the maintenance department. So this is kind of one plan, then there's another one. So we got a lot of construction. Again, there'll be over 35 projects going on this summer.
What's the completion date like of Lake Country Elementary School? It starts in spring of 2020, so 2021 school year?
Well, we want it to be a 2021 opening, but the plating might slow that down. With the new state law, before we could plat and put in a plat with the city, and we would work with the city getting our studies done, our surveys completed, so we kind of had a working relationship, and we were still building and working through that. Now with the new state law, the city has 30 days, once a plat's submitted, to accept it. Good, bad, and if they don't act on it, it still gets approved. So with that being said, now they're not going to accept any plats until everything in the front end's been completed. So this happens September 1st with the new state law. So that may delay us a little bit, but it goes to the central office. We're going to have to start that already because we're a year from starting. I need to go ahead and get that, get the platting worked out on that one and Eagle Mountain High School.
And central office completion date expected to be 21 or 20?
If it starts in 20, it'd be 21, around October, winter time, Thanksgiving to 21. And we've talked about, when you start looking at the amount of people that we have to move over there, that may be a phase-in project, make sure everything works, instead of trying to move everybody like we do in a campus. We'll have to really explore how that, and coordinate that.
They're coming from different places too.
Different places. What I don't want to do is throw everybody in there at once and then something's not going to work, and then we're trying to solve all that. Whereas if you put 100 people in there for 2 weeks, maybe you find some bugs you didn't think about, then you plan the next move. So.
And what would that do to the high school if it starts in spring of 2021?
Spring of 21, so we would probably get in the spring of 24.
24.
Mm-hmm. So the plan, what I would hope is the athletic program would be able to have their summer programs out there for the 2024 school year. I still think we have plenty of time on that, so we've still programmed almost 3 years, so that'll be good, plus a year to design
Just from
it.
what Bob was saying, the only one that really needs to come in when you said it'd be Lake Country Elementary.
That's the one
And that's the hardest one, it sounds
that is the
like.
hardest one. And if it doesn't, it has probably the most dramatic effect on what we do. Because to wait another year with that much growth, we're gonna have to do something different if we can't pull that off. So,
I will comment that Mr. Welch is meeting with the staff in Fort Worth, and they had a meeting on Friday of last week regarding that. There's a couple of different meetings last week. Mr. Jones was part of as well, so we'll say we're hopeful. We're not confident yet, but we're hopeful that we can get it platted and then move forward. And we've been working with anyone we can work with in Fort Worth to make that happen. So
Yes.
we're not making any assumptions.
So the bids would all have to be done though, when we picked the architect?
Yes,
Or for-
yes,
for that
that's how
one?
it could be.
Okay. I'm good, Nick.
And that'll also be the same prototype as our plan is the prototype that we've used for Dozier and Copper Creek. There may be a little bit more differences there because of the site plan, but the building itself should remain the same, just the way it sets on the property.
and we're still working on how it's gonna sit and all the road work that needs to be done. We gotta finalize all that. But as far as the building, they're working on all that.
I think you have one more, the Copper Creek Elementary School attendance zone
Okay.
update.
So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we presented this to a group. We did our introductions, the purpose of rezoning, timeline, things we consider. Then at the end, we just had a little Q&A, and so they just shot questions at us, and then we had some that put some comments on some cards, and we answered those and put them on the website. So it was a good meeting. We had about a little under 30 folks there, probably families. So we went through the purpose of rezoning, just talk about the fast growth. I mean, that's in a nutshell. We have a lot of students coming, and we're building schools, and we had to adjust to it. And they're, you know, over Chisholm, I mean, Comanche, they are full, and I think they understood that there's a lot of growth, because a lot of those folks are having to travel down 156, then go in front of, go to Bailey Boswell, pass High Country, then go to Comanche Springs. And we talked about just the sheer number of elementary students. When you look at 3,000 new elementary students in the next 10 years, that's a lot of students. The timeline, we explained how we use the demographer, and we were there at the meeting on October 29th to get their input. And we explained some of the things, the process, and that we would be presenting tonight for y'all for the first time, for y'all to see it. And then we would hopefully come back in December with the final approval there for your consideration. The considerations, what I try to tell them on this one is this is what we looked at as a crystal ball. Not every decision we make will fall into this, but this is our guidelines and things we look at. And this is how we try to make our decisions. And then the transfer policy, I just said it would be in on the website fairly soon, and they could have their transfer request. And timelines and process was under review. So when you look at this one, look at the top part where it says Chisholm, Ridge, Comanche Springs, and Copper Creek. Those are the ones that we're really looking at. The majority of them were coming off Comanche Springs, a little bit off Chisholm Ridge. But one of the questions that, and it was really, I mean, I'm glad it was asked. It looks like you're moving a lot of folks from Comanche over to Copper. Are you just going to create the problem of overcrowding at Copper when you're moving that many people off Comanche Springs? So when I showed this, you can see that the breakdown is very close, and just the magnitude of growth that is north of Comanche Springs. If you drive through there, that's what's driving. So it's a pretty good balance on both of them.
Are these the numbers that came from Bob when
You
you
bet.
sat down? So this is kind of a look at how it might look at if the attendance zone is as proposed?
That's correct.
Okay.
So they would open with, what is it? Comanche Springs 462 and Copper Creek 444. And a new school always has a little bit more than that, it seems like, when that first year it opens. But it doesn't take them long to get up there, you know. So. And then I always tell them this is the last slide, and kind of save that one because this is what they want to see.
That's where they want to know.
But we talked about pure feeder patterns and now we did a lot of explanation on that process. And we talked about some things we consider, and you look at natural boundaries, there's that railroad right there. You look at where the middle schools are at, and Comanche Springs is right next to Prairie Vista, which is going to go to Eagle Mountain High School. So everything then to the east, in all likelihood, it could line up and easily go down 156 to Saginaw High School.
Mr. Welch, does the Copper Creek neighborhood connect in the back, or will it connect in the back to Comanche Springs in that neighborhood eventually? I know there'll be the railroad is through there.
That's the only thing stopping it right now. There's both roads on both sides are stubbed out, but they do not go under or over the railroad currently. And both sides, you know, they're just waiting for the houses,
And then no
but
problem.
the roads are right there. So it'll make it a lot easier for all of us when that's put in. That's just another way to get, you know, east to west connection.
I bet it's hard to get it through the railroad, though. I mean, they have a lot of say.
They sure
Whether you
do.
go under it or over it, or,
Yes, and when you go over, you have to, you can't just add a crossing. You have to consolidate 2 crossings to get one new one. So it's a lot easier to go underneath or over, I guess. That'll eventually be the problem with Heritage Trace, because it has to connect, but there's no crossing there. So you have to find 2 crossings to create one new one. So you've got if you remember with the Krantz Farms, they got a little crossing there, and then there's one to the north up there by the maintenance. So in the big scheme of things, when Heritage Trace comes through and it has a crossing, those 2 will probably go away.
If it's Heritage Trace, it's so weird to see that road called Heritage Trace out there.
Yes. That's it. And it stops over there by Copper Creek also. So. And then we just had, again, there were some questions at the end. If y'all have any, I have any more?
Anything else? Thanks, Clete.
You're welcome.
Next is to our annual delinquent tax collection report. And Mr. Shealy?
We have a few people here from Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott, and I'd like to invite them up. They're going to go over the presentation, and if you have any questions, they'll be here.
Ebony's gonna come up?
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Good evening. We're happy to be here again and give our annual report. I want to introduce some members of the team that brought with me today. Bruce Medley is going to come up, and he's going to be talking about our delinquent numbers today. We also have Elizabeth Calvo, our managing partner in the Arlington office, and we also have Doug Burnside with us, who is also one of the managing partners as well. So I'm happy to be here. Unfortunately, I'm a little hobbling up here today, but I am here. If Bruce wants to come up and just go ahead and talk about our numbers.
Good afternoon, good evening. Some of y'all may not know me. I've actually helped with the district for a number of years now. I had the pleasure of working with Jim on the TRE some years back when y'all had it, and off and on I've been doing work on the side for the school district as needed, and I'll be starting to work more closely with Ebony on your accounts. I've been with the firm since 1983. Elizabeth has from time to time referred to me as a senior partner, but I think that's just because I'm old. If you look at your handouts, we wanted to look at both the 17 tax year and the 18 tax year. The first 2 charts deal with how we've done on 17. Of your original levy of 119 million, we only received for collections 1.4% of that in July 1 of 18. Of that July 1, 2018 turnover, for that particular year from 7/1/2018 through 6/30, the only remaining amount is 445,069. We've collected over 72% of your accounts for 2017. For the 2018 year, we only got 1%. The taxes came in more on a current basis than on delinquent, so that's good news. Well, good news for the district, not so good news for us, yes. And of that 1%, just since July 1, we have already collected over 58%. So we look to either match or exceed what we did in the prior year on collections. Basically, what happens when we receive the turnover in July 1, we send out mass mailings and we start researching and calling your taxpayers to see if we can get some payment agreements made. We'd like to treat all the taxpayers with respect and dignity, and we would much rather have the district paid with cash than go through foreclosure, although that remains an option if something happens and we just can't get the money in any other way. We'll send out a mass mailing in July. We'll send out another mass mailing in August or September. And then we'll send another mass mailing, and all during this time period, we're making phone calls. And generally speaking, if we make the phone calls and we get no response, or we get a hang up, or we basically get lost, then that escalates the process. But that's how it works. We've been fairly successful, the district. Your numbers are among the higher numbers for the county, and we're very proud of that. We are very happy to have been a delinquent tax firm for this district for a number of years, and we hope that our relationship continues for many years to come.
You know how much of that was turned over is commercial, residential, or personal property tax? Is there just a rough idea, or is most of it commercial?
No, probably
Most
about
of it's
70%
resi-
is residential.
It is,
but the
okay.
rest is gonna be small businesses.
So some of it could be personal property tax?
Yes, some
or-
of it is going to be your personal property tax.
Okay.
I can get up.
Sure.
And the personal property tax is, of course, more volatile. It's harder to collect.
Absolutely. You have about 3,800 properties that are actually delinquent. Out of those, 50 of them are in deferral. You have about over 400 that are in litigation. You don't have a bankruptcy issue. You only have 88 properties out of the 3,800 properties that are in your bankruptcy. You have probably about 200 properties that are uncollectible, and there's about 2,600 properties that we're currently still working on, whether they're in payment agreements or possibility of they're gonna pay at the end of the year. You have that sometimes. But for the most part, it's about 70% residential, and the rest is gonna be small businesses.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay.
wondered that.
And I have a question. So in the event that it does go into foreclosure, upon that settlement, does the school district, are you able to collect some of those taxes for?
Well, what happens if it goes into foreclosure, it's going to be put up for sale at the courthouse steps. The minimum bid at the courthouse steps is either the last appraised value for the property or the amount of taxes owed, whichever is less. And generally speaking, in today's market, people have been buying the accounts. We try not to, well, we certainly will not strike anything off the school unless we talk to the school ahead of time and we get permission to strike the property off of the school. Because that's generally what would happen. If no one bids, it gets struck off to one of the tax units. But we will not do that unless we have express permission from the school to do it.
And we also get express permission from the school, Mr. Shealy. We talked to him about it before we even file a lawsuit to start the foreclosure process.
Y'all are closer to your community than we are. You're going to be more aware of hardships than we are. And as I said, we just want to, we take very seriously the fact that we represent the school.
Yes.
I want to add a note too, and on Mr. Shealy, before we make that decision, actually, we'll pay a home visit in the case of residential property to try to encourage some kind of agreement so that we don't have to do that. It's certainly something we take very seriously, and I know that y'all concur with that, and that's one
Yes.
reason why we've had such a good partnership with you, because we want to treat you with dignity and respect, even in those difficult circumstances,
Absolutely.
of course. So we do take those efforts to try to avoid that if at all possible.
Yes. Do you guys have any questions of us? Any other questions?
Come up with a really good story about your broke leg, like being a tax
I'm gonna go
collection.
with I jumped out of a plane. That's what I'm going with, other than I've fallen and I can't get up.
We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you again for allowing us to represent you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda?
2 minutes is perfect time to give you this
I was
riveting.
gonna print all those out, but I didn't quite get them all printed to
You
campus.
didn't?
No?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You do.
That
Good
sounds
evening.
right.
It is time for the riveting annual report of our district improvement plan, and I'm proud to present that. At your seat, you should find a flash drive that will holds every campus improvement plan as well as the district improvement plan. And keep in mind, our plans are living documents. They're updated quarterly, if not more. And at this time, as a board, you are required to review and approve our plans. Our plans are aligned to our strategic Aspire 2022 and includes all elements required by federal law for Title I funding. I'll begin with our review of the 2019-2020 District Improvement Plan on page 50 of the board book. I'll go ahead and pop down to the data review. We follow a very specific process for the district improvement plan, which includes this list of data that is to be reviewed. From the review, we do a comprehensive needs assessment. where we include how to respond to these needs. And this takes a collaborative effort of both the campus and the district level. We then create from this our large goals, and then the performance objectives to meet these goals. The DIP is reviewed, you'll see here, by the DPAC committee and educational service team members before the final copy of the presentation is presented to you tonight. When we look at our district improvement plan, we have 4 specific sections. I'll be covering tonight the goals of each section, the goals and then the performance objectives of each goal. If you would like for me to cover all 44 strategies, I will be glad to do that as well. But I thought that would be for your reading pleasure. Okay, when we look at our 3 goals, we're looking at student achievement, which is at the core of our work. The collaborative community, I'm very proud of the collaborative reviews and information we get back in our surveys. And then that 3rd goal is a safe and nurturing environment. First of all, on the student achievement, it focuses on Tier 1 instruction and systematic intervention to ensure that high level of learning. When we look at Goal 1, we have the most performance objectives in this, of course, because it is our core work. These performance objectives, these first 3, focus on our 2% growth, and this has to do with our state testing assessment. And I want to assure you that when we look at this 2% growth, we are looking at the district overall, and we want to stay above the state in that district work and the region. And the region as well. And this year, you'll see in the individual campus goals, you'll see information regarding the meets objective. Instead of just approaches, we want to be at the meets level. So you'll see some specific data on that, again, in the junk drive. Performance 2 is about increased growth and participation in performance and advanced placement in the PSAT, ACT. We will be paying. We do pay for all juniors to take either the ACT or SAT if they choose. All of our sophomores are offered the opportunity to take the PSAT. We target those students then to take, we feel like will be national merit competitors, and pay for that one as well their junior year. Then we want to focus as well on our performance objective in number 3 by 3% in our industry recognized certifications. We're being quite successful in that area. Our next 3 objectives that tie to goal number 1 also include instructional strategy alignment with best practices. That's where you'll see later in our professional development where that's connected, as well as our multi-tiered system of support. And then all of our students meet at least right and work to meet their academic and behavior goals. The last 2 performance objectives under goal number 1 also have to do with fine arts objective and then the percentage that meets. Again, we're moving out of the approaches area, which is considered passing in Texas, into that federal area of meets. Goal number 2 is collaborative community. And this is working together to provide resources and opportunities for our staff, students, parents, and community to work together. We only have 2 performance objectives here. And in these performance objectives, we're looking at increasing partnerships, such as our All-Pro Dads we added last year, and our Read to Win to enhance the learning environment. Performance objective 2 is 100% of district training. This is where our PD aligns to the other goals so that we are building capacity to improve the learning environment. As you can hear, those are large goals, and then when you go into the 44 specific strategies, you will see how we're specifically meeting those. The last goal is safe and nurturing environment, promoting that safe, nurturing relationships and environment which positively impact the emotional and physical health of the learning community. There are 3 specific performance objectives on these, including we have aligned district protocols for our safe and secure environment. Dr. Barry Baker leads those, and we utilize our Crisis Go apps. Performance number 2 is the tiered system of behavioral support so that we meet the behavior needs of students. And then the third is increasing the number of technology devices and the infrastructure to support those devices. As I close, I want to let you know we have placeholders. We mentioned the three this year under HB3. You are required, we will work with you to set 3 goals. Those will include, I think I put them in the board update, but mathematics, pre-K through 3 with a specific look at 3. As you know, we're already working with that area. Early literacy, pre-K through 3rd as well, and we have our literacy academies. We are working with that. It will perfectly align. And finally, CCMR, which has been a major focus and continues to be. We will be writing those goals between now and February and hope to bring to you those 3 large goals in February. We have until the end of the year, so if we're not satisfied, we can tweak those a bit and bring them back. Do you have any questions regarding the district improvement plan?
Those will come back for board action then, you're saying?
They'll come to you as a report
And then
action, but I will keep you updated in the board updates as we work through those.
sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Thank you.
Seeing Dr. Barnes is going to take a long time. Dr. Barnes, let's do the 2020-2021 school calendar proposal in 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for allowing me to present to you our proposed school calendar for 2020-2021. What you will notice with this calendar is anytime you come after a leap year, you're going to see that things are a little off. So that your leap year calendar, which is this year, and then the next year's school calendar, you will see that the dates are just a tad bit different. But as our standard is, we did follow historically what it has been requested for us to do. With this proposed calendar is we still have remained with our 177 instructional days. That has been critically important for us to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students, and 187 teacher days, which of course is required by law. As with any calendar, we start with graduation and work backwards. And so we have set the standard, and Dickey's is being very kind to us, that our graduations will be on that last Saturday of May. So you will notice at the very bottom, again, starting backwards and working up, is we have gained a day per se just this coming school year because Memorial Day will be after graduation. So because of that, then if you look back to the very beginning of the school year in August, you will see that that 177th day is the 18th, which is a Tuesday. Always makes me a little nervous when we start on a different day other than a Monday. But again, just keeping the same standard with the holidays and so forth was very important. With our minutes, what this proposed calendar will provide us is a little over 3 extra days for elementary, and elementary and middle, and a little over 5 days for high school. So that does give us the, what we always like to do is at least bank 3 days just in case. And of course, bank days do not include snow days. Another thing that was presented to us was to look into ending the semester prior to the holiday break at Christmas. For your information, the first semester for the proposed calendar is 92 days, and the second semester is 85 days, which is 1.2 weeks difference time. If we do decide to end the semester prior to Christmas break, it does bring in a significant difference. And you requested that information, and if we do switch it to prior to Christmas, first semester would be 82 days, second semester would be 95 days, which is actually 2.5 weeks difference between the 2 semesters. The last thing, last 2 things that I wanted to bring to your attention, we definitely listened to the feedback of our teachers and what was best for them concerning their instructional opportunities was that pulling them from the campuses during the day, so much during the school year, was not a benefit to the students nor the teachers. So what we are proposing for this following school year is we have a waiver with the state that has been approved that we are allowed to use 2,100 minutes towards professional learning for our teachers. That also counts towards that 75,600 required student minutes. So instead of pulling teachers during the school day, so often for the CLCs, is that we would provide a half day at the end of each 6 weeks, and teachers then at that half of the day in the afternoon would be able to meet with their cohort, their peers, and so forth, and be able to do their PLCs and their curriculum learning. So we were very excited about that. But one thing that is always critical is, again, we can only use 2,100 minutes towards that. Anything over that, the state says, is null and void concerning our minutes. So therefore, what we have proposed to you is that this half day on December, that half day would be a teacher work afternoon. And then the last half day in May would also be a teacher work afternoon.
Which day in May, the last day, the 28th?
Yes, sir. And the only other major change that you will see this year is, again, listening to the feedback and also conversing with other superintendents across North Texas and following TCC with so many of our kids taking dual credit and so many of our teachers participating at TCC and so forth, is that it is our proposal to move spring break instead of the second week to the third week, to where, again, that will match TCC and, of course, other North Texas districts. And also, it's much warmer that third week of March.
Is there any reason that was on the second week as far
His-
as breaking in the semester?
I could not find
other
why. That just historically, it's always been the second week of March.
Interesting enough, the other school districts that are now choosing the third week have chosen the second week before. It's been about a split, probably the majority choosing the same week as us, including TCC. So this year it's pretty consistent. I didn't find any that weren't choosing this week. So.
And when we presented this to the DPAC, and I talked about how we've been in communications with other superintendents, what other districts are doing, we'd like to move it to the third week and also to match with our partnership with TCC. We did not get any questions, and they were actually shaking their heads going, oh, thank goodness, because my spouse works in this district, or, you know, I have kids in this other district, and then this way it aligns with everything.
So Dr. Barnes, just a clarification, the 27th and 28th of May, it looks like it's, well, it does say it's half days for students. So teachers will be required to be there those 2 days, 2 half days, right?
Yes, ma'am. Everything in green you're going to see is that, And again, what the state has done is they have allowed us to have 2,100 minutes that can count towards teacher professional learning. And we say that a lot. It has to be professional learning. But it was, again, anything that is over that just doesn't count towards anything. So we were able to take 2 of those half days. And again, the feedback from our teachers, they sure would love to be able to work in that afternoon on their own on right before the Christmas break. And then, of course, the final day of school, being able to put everything together. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barnes. Sorry, Dan. Stacy. It is currently 6:03 PM on November 18th, 2019. The board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act: 551.071, consultation with the board's attorney; 551.072, purpose of deliberating a purchase or exchange of real property; 551.074, purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment of duties or discipline of a public officer or employee; 551.075 for the purpose of deliberation regarding deployment or specific occasion for implementation of security personnel. And we will be discussing the cybersecurity report tonight. And 551.082, considering discipline of a public school child or complaint against personnel. is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on November 18th, 2019 at 7:08 PM and will now consider the subjects set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome everybody to our meeting. And to start our meeting off, we have Elkins Elementary School. Ms. Cowden.
Thank you. We have kindergartner Carly Boncosi. She loves playing with Barbies, loves learning about science, and loving school. We have Zora Robertson in kindergarten. Zora loves dancing and helping her brother feel better. All right. Next up, we have second grader Grayson Winger. Grayson's a member of the Table Church and loves soccer and Pokemon. Next up, second grader Ella Ivy. Ella loves horses, is a member of the 777 Rescue Ranch and Tip Top Riding Club. Next up, we have second grader James Clement. He loves to dance. He's the youngest member of the competition dance team at Encore School of Dance. He has a goal of attending TCU and becoming a dance teacher and reminding others that boys can dance too. Fourth grader Josie Kieschnick. Josie is a member of our Elk Junior Council, Destination Imagination, and our Hoofbeats Choir. She is also a proud member of Girl Scouts. Next up, we have fourth grader Kingsley Boncosi. Kingsley plays basketball and football. His favorite subject in school is math. And last up, we have fifth grader Cameron Robertson. Cameron is an Elk Junior Council officer, member of our Hoofbeats Choir, Destination Imagination, an honor roll student, and has started her own fifth grade newspaper. She also has a goal of perfect attendance this year, and she's well on her way. Please stand and join us in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for our Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated for a moment of silence. Thank you. If you are a parent of these outstanding Elks, can you please stand up? Thank you. We just want to say thank you for your support and supporting us here at Elkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Elkins. Thank you, parents, for bringing them out. Thank you, Ms. Cowden. Megan?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if I can top that, but we're going to try. We've got some great recognitions tonight. The first one is our very special recognition that highlights one of our partnerships that we have with the city. Our EMS ISD audiovisual production students from the Hollenstein Career and Technology Center filmed and produced a marketing video with the city of Saginaw. It's called Made in Saginaw, and it received a pretty big award. It was awarded the International Economic Development Council's 2019 Bronze Award in Multimedia Video Promotion, and that's international award for this. The City of Saginaw was presented this Bronze Award at a ceremony on October 15th during their annual conference up in Indianapolis. The video showcases some of the interesting and exciting companies with Saginaw's industrial core and some of the products that are created within the community. So I could sit here and tell you what's in it, but I'd rather show you first, and then we'll celebrate the work of these students. Okay. See if I can get sound going.
The ability to take something from scratch and build it up to what it is. It's incredibly rewarding to actually get to go see something that you did exist in something like that.
Saginaw is a great workforce.
We are family.
Saginaw is forward thinking.
If we've got an employee that has a personal problem that needs help, they're there for you. It's still very family oriented.
Being part of a small family company is very, very, very rewarding. Having the people that you work for know you at an individual level is incredibly satisfying.
Saginaw is booming. Saginaw is the perfect location in DFW. Saginaw is pro-business.
Yeah, I
Saginaw.
might need Kirk's a little assistance.
I think you got it up higher there.
Yeah. Was trying to get that to. It's really good. It's better if you can
I
hear
have
it.
6 students that are going, you want me to show you?
Let me see. Let's see if we can get this sound up. You want me to back it up and
Yeah,
start
take
it
it
over?
back.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Let's see if this works.
That's loud.
The ability to take something from scratch and build it up to what it is. It's incredibly rewarding to actually get to go see something that you did exist in something like that.
Saginaw is a great workforce.
We are family.
Saginaw is forward thinking.
If we've got an employee that has a personal problem that needs help, they're there for you. It's still very family oriented.
Being part of a small family company is very, very, very rewarding. Having the people that you work for know you at an individual level is incredibly satisfying.
Saginaw is booming. Saginaw is the perfect location in DFW. Saginaw is pro-business.
Saginaw is growth.
The city of Saginaw in 1998 helped us build this building. This is probably why we owe our whole life to Saginaw. Absolutely.
This is the cute part. I thought that was pretty fun. I love this video because it really showcases the talents of our students and our program over there. It has some really creative cinematography in it. It's just really, really good. And the students introduce themselves up here, but I would like for them to come forward if we can. We have 2019 graduates Danny Wynn, Emily Fleming, and Peter Sanger. Forward. And then we also have seniors Jackson Davis and Joseph Nash, and their teacher, George Garza. This video is featured on the Economic Development website for the City of Saginaw and linked from our page as well, and so you can find it there. The plaque that was presented to the city is going to find its way home at the Hollenstein, and they will be recognized at the City Council meeting in Saginaw on December 3rd. So congratulations, and thank you for your great work. We've already taken the picture, so fantastic. We also have one more recognition tonight. We would like to recognize Saginaw High School student Alexis Lexi Ward, see over here, for receiving the Jostens Renaissance National Student of the Month Award for November 2019. Jostens Renaissance National Student of the Month recognition is for a deserving student who's made an impact within their school or community through Jostens Renaissance. This is a program that focuses on recognizing students and staff. The core of the program revolves around the 5 R's: what you respect, reward, recognize, reinforce equals the results. So Lexi serves as Vice President of Writer Renaissance and is varsity cheer captain. She also takes AP classes. She loves every student at Saginaw High School, regardless of which social group they belong. And I understand she's also really the first one to jump and give rides if anybody needs a ride. That's what I heard? Right, okay. She always has a smile on her face and will stop everything to help someone in need. She's the first person to offer fellow Renaissance members a ride. There it is. If you can't make it to an event, so everyone is always included. It's always about inclusion and caring about others. She enjoys spending time trying to better the culture at Saginaw High School. Lexi, if you would come forward so we could congratulate you on your award. Our principal and her sponsors are here tonight. Chelsea is here, the primary sponsor over there?
No, my husband.
Husband is over there. Perfect. So if you guys come forward, tell us, and be up here and help us celebrate Lexi and for her wonderful work at Saginaw High School. Thank you for leading us. And again, we did our Kodak moment, so
Already have it.
thank you very much for being here.
Congratulations.
And that concludes our recognitions
All
this
right.
evening.
Lots of things to be proud of in our district, and we saw some examples here tonight. Thank all of you for being here. Congratulations to the students. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or get up and go, which I would take this opportunity to get up and go if you would like.
I know we just said that.
I know, I felt so
I looked at Miss George.
Well, they look so much older. I didn't know what, yeah.
We could have walked out there and shook their hand.
I know, yeah.
That'd be a bad thing to start. All right, that concludes the communication portion. We now move to action items, and the first is to act on the election of members to the Board of Directors for the Tarrant Appraisal District. Mr. Shealy?
I make a recommendation for the board to choose Gary Lasada as the representative.
Second.
Motion by Tim and second by Liz to cast the 168 votes for Gary
Yes,
Lasada.
all votes.
All votes. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Consider an order authorizing the issues of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Bond, Series 2019, levying a continuing direct annual ad valorem tax for the payment of said bonds, and resolving other matters incident related to the issuance, sale, payment, and delivery of said bonds, including establishing parameters therefore and delegating certain matters to authorized district officials.
Thank you. I have Kristen Savant, who works with us. She is from Norton, Rose, and Fulbright. She came in, I think, a little over 2 years ago on a very short-term, we need this now basis, and she did so good that we do it that way all the time. So she's doing great. I just wanted to introduce her, put a face to the name. She's done an excellent job for us.
Sure she appreciates that.
And I did have one question. They do have to read the action item as written, correct?
I have a suggested motion, if that would be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Sure.
Oh, that's that thing.
Becky, we're gonna pass one to you. Sorry. I don't know why I'm passing one at a time. Like a teacher.
This is based on the presentation we had last month from Josh McLaughlin. What we are looking at is the maximum issue which we can make to maintain our tax rate at the current 45 cents and also prepare us for future issuances based on the projections that we're looking at in order to be able to accelerate some projects, have some savings based on from the original authorizations, but also protect ourselves so we can build Eagle Mountain High School.
I move to adopt the order authorizing the issuance of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bond Series 2019, establishing parameters for the sale and issuance of such bonds, and delegating certain matters to authorized officials of the district.
Second.
Motion by Marilyn, second by Liz. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for your work. It is nice to put a name and face together. We appreciate it. Next is to designate the method of procurement for security upgrades to multiple campuses. Mr. Jones.
Good evening. This project is basically to correct or complete the security project that was originally being performed by 308 Construction that we discussed last month. So VLK Architects is currently rewriting and updating that scope of work, and we will be sending that out for, we're trying to do the procurement method of the CM at risk, construction manager at risk with a two-step process. And so we're asking for your approval to proceed with that method of procurement.
I make a motion to designate construction manager at risk as the method of procurement for the security upgrades to multiple campuses project.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Marilyn. Questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones. We go back now to the report. That concludes our action item section. We go back to reports and word to Dana and Stacy on report on course proposals for 2021.
All right, good evening.
Good
We
evening.
would like to report on the course proposals that we would like to move forward with recommendations to offer in the 2020-2021 school year. We will report on these tonight. The charts on these courses are in page 60 in the board notebook, and we would like to bring these back for approval in next month's board meeting. So for the secondary courses, these are at the high school level. We have 3 that are all related to American Sign Language. This was the first year that we implemented American Sign Language 1, and so we would like to continue to move forward with the offerings to complete that language offering with American Sign Language 2 being offered next year. That would allow our students to be able to fulfill their LOPT graduation requirement to complete their 2-year graduation requirement for if they're taking ASL 1. Then we would like to go ahead, although not being offered until 2021-2022, offer to go ahead and put ASL 3, go ahead and make a recommendation to approve that, and then followed with ASL 4, implementing in 2022 school year. So we could go ahead and have those just aligned out in the master's schedule. And then in the event that we have any student who moves into the district who's already had those courses, so they can continue and not have any gaps in their LOPT continuation in those courses. So we could have those already built into the master's schedule if needed.
That also allow them to then plan ahead to
Yes, sir.
see that if they know it's coming in
Yes, sir.
2 school years out.
Yes,
So,
sir, it
okay.
would.
Great.
So you can see what that would involve as far as cost and planning. With the addition of American Sign Language 2, that does involve an additional staff request, but we currently have one staff involved with American Sign Language. We have 1 teacher who is moving from 3 different campuses. She took on a lot this year. She's doing a great job. But if we do expand this, we do need to go ahead and include staff involved with this proposal. So in addition to that, we would like to add another offering of our on-ramps course. That's a partnership that we have, like a dual credit enrollment with partnership with University of Texas. We would like to go ahead and add to that by recommending On-Ramps Chemistry 1 to continue to add to our offerings there as a dual credit course. And so that's for the secondary courses, and then Dana will be reporting on the CTE courses.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So the American Sign Language falls under language?
Yes, ma'am.
Foreign language. And then is there a certification that they receive if they complete all of the 4 courses?
For the students?
Uh-huh. I know they get credit, but I didn't know if there
Not
was
an
some.
additional certification, no. It's just like any other language, like our Spanish credit and German, French. No, there's not an additional certification.
Okay, thank you.
Dana has a few more courses than
I always like to, come with a
come with the
handful.
whole
As you know, we've been going through the programs of study process to bring us into alignment with the new requirements with the federal government. And so to allow us to meet both state and federal requirements, we are putting these courses into play. Some of them will be replacing courses we already offer to make sure that we can do that and we follow the course alignment. For example, we will be replacing Ag Mech Metal with Introduction to Welding. The content does not change, we just change the course. We have no need for FTEs. Some of these courses we are putting in place honestly to be ready in case changes do continue to come, because we are getting daily reports from TEA of changes in programs of study. We're trying to be proactive and have some things ready in our pocket in case those continue to happen. Any questions?
And all of them have no cost, on the cost
No,
columns?
the teachers that are teaching them will continue to teach them. It's just about kind of changing some names.
I did want to bring up that there's been significant changes at the state level, and one of those has been the fear that they may discontinue or stop approving certain courses. One of those is cosmetology, and so Dana's been very involved in iterating how important that course is and providing information to the state. We've also put together a video that actually underscores that we'll be using to get that message to the state level. I hate to report that some of this has already gone into place and sent to the CTE directors way before really any decision-making was allowed. They simply, you could kind of tell that they were wanting to go towards discontinuing that course based upon some of the statements that were made. So we're fighting that. We feel like it's a very important part of the offerings that we provide to students. We also believe that is a bridge course for students a lot of times to start their own business or to get other degrees, and we have many examples of that. And we, again, mentioned that in the video of students student's currently a nurse that started as a cosmetologist and now is working as a nurse. So anything you want to share with that, Dana, feel free. But
Just that very thing that Dr. Chatwell says is that we feel like this course is important. It's not just about, all these courses are important for whatever reason the student's going to use them for, whether that's their passion and they're going to pursue it, or they're going to use that as a way to go through college. Any course at the HCTC fulfills that. We feel cosmetology is really important. I'm not going to let it go. I sat on a committee with 15 other districts in the region to submit an application to the state saying that we're going to fight. And we, as the district, took on that ownership of submitting that application on behalf of all of those districts. And so we're not going to give up.
What is the reason? Is that given a reason? I guess
We have not had a reason.
the only thing that they've mentioned at all, and they haven't come out strong enough on this, is looking at average wage. And the problem with that is that many people who do this profession are doing other jobs as well. And so trying to just pick a number, the reality is that people can be highly compensated in that job when they build their client base. I find it really disturbing what they're basing it on.
They had a formula, an interesting formula that we've never seen.
Well, enrollment hasn't dropped in that.
They're saying that the average yearly salary for a cosmetologist is $21,000. Now, I know you all can look at me, every woman here who gets a haircut or gets your hair colored knows that is not true.
That cannot be true.
And so That's what the state is saying. We have asked repeatedly, please let us see how you came up with this information. Let me see the data. Let us see the formula. We have gotten nothing. And
Maybe if
so,
we talk to the cosmetologists of the people making the decision, they may want to change their mind.
yeah, go figure. So we're continuing to push and we're continuing to fight. We feel it's important. For whatever reason these kids want to go into this program, we feel like we need to support them.
How many kids do we have in it, do you know,
We have about 45 right now.
in it?
We have about 45 seniors.
And you have a waiting list to get in that one?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not have a waiting list, but it is always
Always full.
popular and full and used. Again, going back to Chanel, Chanel was one of our first students at the HCTC. She's now a nurse at Presbyterian Dallas and worked her way through college and worked her way through nursing school as a cosmetologist, which is a prime example of not trying to pigeonhole a student and limiting them as to what you think they can accomplish.
I bet she's making more than 21,000.
She is. She's doing very well. In fact, I believe she's on her 2-week vacation in Dubai right now. And she had just come back to Italy. When she filmed our video, she had just come back from Italy.
A reminder, when they leave the program, not only do they leave with the certification, so the ability to work tomorrow, but they also have bought a kit that they can, a professional kit that they can then use. They have all the tools that they need to go and work, and so it's, we're gonna keep working at it. We'll provide you information. Right now, I mean, we're gonna continue to go the direction we're going. What we're afraid of is that they'll say, you can have the course, but we're not gonna fund it.
Right.
With the weighted funding, which is basically trying to kill the course. So we felt like publicly we need to share this information, and that we will be reaching out to them and providing them anecdotal information, but also quantitative information of why this program is important to our district.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you for your support.
Thank you. All right, the report on the Student Initiative Officer and the local agreement with the City of Fort Worth. Dr. Baker.
Well, good evening. Appreciate y'all allowing me to present this, and thank you for your patience. I know it's been a couple of months that we've been working towards this. We're finally at the point where we are able to move forward with the contract. Fort Worth will provide us with 6 officers. You'll see a change in the amount that we're paying, the cost from last year, about 28%. Pretty significant number, and I think that is primarily the majority of that is based on the fact that we've added a brand new or totally new officer at Marine Creek. And so that would be a great justification for that. I've mentioned last month when we were looking at the Saginaw contract that we were hopeful that TASB would provide us with a list of duties. Cloud without rain, unfortunately they didn't give us much there, and so we are continuing to work on that, and we'll provide something to you because you will then need to approve it, and then we'll need to put it in all of our bigger documents, student code of conduct and such. So do you have any questions for me on this?
So, it's 13, it's quite a lengthy contract, I noticed.
Yeah.
They're trying to cover a lot of different things in there, but I guess that's where we are with it.
It is, and
We've already, this is a report, and we're ready to sign it next month?
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, that concludes the superintendent reports. We move now to the routine monthly reports. Any questions on those? Seeing none. Dr. Chappell, the 19 board plan.
It's one of the big items that we have next month. This is on page 259 of your packet, is the act on the naming of the architect of record for Eagle Mountain High School. We're currently working on that. All the different parts of that decision-making process has been put together, and we'll be having that meeting with the 3 architects that are eligible to put their information out to us here in just a few weeks, and so we'll be bringing that to you. That's on a pretty quick timeline after that decision has been made, namely because we have to get to work. There's a lot of work to be done to be on time for 2024. You'll also see the consent agenda. We have a number of items that were reported tonight that would be on the consent agenda, including the DIP and CIP update and the school calendar. And also, you'll notice the board meeting dates for July 20th, 2020 and 2021. I would ask for your review of that to make sure that none of those dates are in conflict with things that you have that you want to make sure we work around. We've been working off of this year of moving to the fourth week in some cases, so hopefully those adjustments have been made. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Chapel. That brings us to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Liz. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 5-0. Well, as far as my announcements, I hope everyone has a nice Thanksgiving. I know we're looking forward to the breaks coming up in the future, so I also am looking forward to those breaks. Chapel?
First thing I just wanted to say, and probably should have said it when the kids were in here, it's pretty neat to have kindergartners and students that just graduated all in the same room. So just watching all that they've achieved, it's just really affirming of why we do this work, and so that's good. I'm so glad we do that, and I'm so glad that we're able to recognize kids every month for all that they've done. Just a couple of dates to bring to your attention. Holiday Open House on December the 18th in this very room. I know Mr. Bell has Endless Entertainment that will be right here.
Right here.
Okay, they'll be performing, and we'll have a lot of fun that day. Also, 2 dates in January. January 7th is the Safety and Security meeting. There's 3 individuals that are on that committee, Dr. Colbert, Mr. Newcomb, and Ms. Webb. And then finally, the special board meeting on Strategic Planning Board Workshop on January the 9th from 5 to 7. If you have any questions on any of these items, just let us know. That's it, sir.
I think it was good, the younger kids too got to see the bigger
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
You could see them watching them.
Yeah.
It was good. Seeing there's no further business to come before this board, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Marilyn made a motion and Liz second.